President Xi Jinping ushered in 2026 with a reception at the Blue House on Friday, where he shared his New Year's vision for the country, building on last year's recovery and normalization. President Xi Jinping and Chinese President Xi Jinping will discuss restoring Seoul-Beijing relations at their upcoming summit in China next Monday, according to Cheongwade. Expected items on the agenda include Korean Peninsula issues and economic cooperation. South Korean stocks were off to a bullish start on the New Year's opening day, surging over more than 2% to close at an all-time high, backed by strong gains in chip shares. On the first working day of 2026, President Xi Jinping hosted a New Year's reception at the Blue House, bringing together leaders from the politics, the judiciary, and the business world. Our correspondent Song Yujin starts us off.
A country where effort is rewarded, opportunities are open, and prosperity is shared. That's the vision President Lee Jae-myung has for South Korea in the new year.
2026년 병오년 새해는 회복과 정상화의 토대 위에서 우리 대한민국이 대도약을 향해 힘차게 달려나가는 새로운 한 해가 될 것입니다.
Marking the start of the year, President Lee hosted a New Year's reception at the Blue House on Friday. Around 200 guests attended, including key figures from the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, as well as representatives from business, labor, and religious circles. In his remarks, the president underscored his policy direction for 2026, ensuring that economic growth benefits society as a whole, not just a selective few. He stressed that shared prosperity is not only a matter of fairness, but a driver of sustainable growth.
공동체와 국민 전체의 역량으로 이뤄낸 이 경제 성장의 결실이 중소기업 또 벤처기업까지 흐르고 국민 한 분 한 분이 체감할 수 있는 삶의 변화로 이어져야 합니다.
The message echoed his New Year's address a day earlier, in which Lee pledged stronger support for startups and small businesses, creating an environment where innovation and risk-taking are encouraged and failure is not penalized. The president also called for national unity, urging the country to move beyond deepening division.
갈등을 키우기보다 공존과 화합의 길을 찾고 성장의 속도만큼이나 상생의 책임을 고민할 때 우리 대한민국이 다시 한번 큰 도약을 이뤄낼 수 있을 것으로 확신합니다.
Cabinet ministers and the leadership of the ruling Democratic Party were present at Friday's event. However, the main opposition People Power Party decided not to attend, likely due to ongoing political tensions over the establishment of a special tribunal for insurrection charges and allegations of illegal lobbying involving senior DP politicians. Song Yujin, Arirang News.
President Lee is set to embark on a 4-day trip to China this weekend for a summit with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. Our Blue House correspondent Yoon Jung-min takes a closer look at what's on the agenda.
The South Korean leader will depart for Beijing on Sunday as part of his 4-day state visit to China. On Monday, President Lee Jae-myung will be hosted by Chinese President Xi Jinping for a summit, just 2 months after they met in South Korea's Gyeongju. High on the agenda is restoring the Seoul-Beijing relationship, which had been frosted under the previous Yoon Suk-yeol administration.
Based on deep friendship and robust trust between Korea and China, we will restore the strategic dialogue channel to solidify the political foundation.
The leaders are also expected to focus on economic cooperation, centered on supply chains and digital economy, among others, with a signing event planned for a number of MOUs. North Korea is also on the summit agenda, as Seoul asks for a constructive role by Beijing to revive dialogue with Pyongyang.
People's livelihoods and peace are inseparable. Both South Korea and China share the common goal of peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula and in Northeast Asia.
Eyes are also on China potentially lifting its unofficial ban on Korean cultural content, which was in retaliation for Seoul's decision to deploy the U.S. THAAD missile defense system in 2016. Other issues on the table include the issue of China's unauthorized steel structures in the West Sea. When asked about Taiwan issues, Wee said South Korea respects the One China policy. On Tuesday, a number of meetings with high-level Chinese politicians is scheduled, including Chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, Zhao Leji, and Premier Li Chang. President Yi will then head to Shanghai, where he will meet Party Secretary of Shanghai, Chen Jining. Also in that city, Yi will visit the Provisional Government Building in Shanghai, a Korean government in exile during Japanese colonial rule. He plans to honor the 150th anniversary of the birth of Korean independence activist Kim Gu, as well as the centennial anniversary of the Shanghai Provisional Government. Business cooperation is also key to Yi's China trip. The president will attend a South Korea-China Business Forum in Beijing and a Venture Startup Summit in Shanghai. Yi will also meet Koreans residing in China during his stay. The president's top security advisor called the New Year trip to China unprecedented, in that it completes a South Korea-China reciprocal visit at the top level in just 2 months. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
As we start the new year, the government kicks off a new economic control power, which has been split. So that part is in charge of budget execution and taxation, while the other plans the mid to long-term national economic strategy through a budget allocation. In addition, there are rules that you should remember that will kick in 2026. Our Kim Do-yeon has more.
South Korea's economic control tower has been completely re-engineered. Effective Friday, the Ministry of Economy and Finance, which had served as the country's super ministry since 2008, has been separated into distinct bodies. This marks the first structural split in 18 years. The newly reinstated Ministry of Economy and Finance, located in the Sejong Central Building, will handle economic policy, taxation, foreign exchange, and state property management. Meanwhile, the functions of budget and national strategy have been transferred to the new Ministry of Planning and Budget, operating directly under the Prime Minister's office. The idea to work together was the reason behind the merger back in 2008, but with the split in authority, the government's now trying to have each agency focus on its goals. This is because when mid to long-term budget planning and immediate budget execution are done by the same agency, the planning could be focused more on immediate measures. While the government restructures the top, it is also widening the safety net at the bottom. The Ministry of Health and Welfare has raised the standard median income for a 4-person household to roughly 6.49 million won, or about $4,600. This represents a 6.51% increase, the sharpest hike on record, aimed at reflecting recent inflation and the rising cost of living. This standard median income, which represents the exact midpoint of all households ranked by earnings, is critical, as it serves as the eligibility benchmark for 80 different government welfare programs. With this adjustment, the threshold for livelihood benefits, which is capped at 32% of the median income, has also been raised. For a 4-person household, the monthly support cutoff has increased from 1.95 million won to nearly 2.08 million won, which is roughly $1,480. In addition, more rules will be in place for the real estate market. To prevent so-called gap investment fraud, authorities will no longer recognize multiple rental deposits as valid debt for welfare eligibility, ensuring support reaches those who truly need it. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
The Bank of Korea Governor Lee Chang-myung says the nation's economy in 2026 is expected to grow by 1.8%. But without the IT sector, that figure drops to just 1.4%. He made the comments during his New Year's address on Friday and referred to a K-shaped recovery, where the difference between recovering sectors and those lagging behind continues to grow. Regarding South Korea's currency, the governor addressed won trading in the 1,400 range against the US dollar. He said the valuation is disconnected from economic fundamentals, attributing the weakness partly to massive overseas investments by domestic residents. He urged a comprehensive review of how capital outflows affect the local market. And on the first trading day of the year today, South Korea's benchmark index, the KOSPI, reached a new all-time high. Our Park Jun-han has the latest.
After a two-day holiday over the New Year, South Korea's benchmark KOSPI broke another record on Friday. The market opened on Friday at just over 4,224 points, up 0.25% from Tuesday's close, and then proceeded to end the day's trading at over 4,309 points, up 95.46 points or 2.27%. The market opened an hour later than usual at 10 a.m. due to the annual opening ceremony attended by financial leaders to celebrate the new year. Despite the weak performance of the United States stock indices on Wednesday, the KOSPI surged. Yonhap News Agency, citing local analysts, claimed that strong annual export data released over the holiday was a key driver of the Korean stock surge. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Resources announced on Thursday that December exports reached $69.57 billion, marking a 13.4% year-on-year increase and setting a record high for any December. This figure significantly surpassed the consensus forecast of an 8.3% rise. However, Friday's rally was led by foreign investors while domestic retail investors sold. An economics expert said investors should take a wait-and-see approach.
It is, so to speak, an excitement effect following last year's sharp gains. If institutional or retail investors were leading the rally, we could say the momentum is still alive. But this rally has been driven by foreign investors, not individuals. That is why we need to wait and see a bit longer.
Overall, Friday's strong performance reflects optimism about South Korea's export-driven economy, with particular momentum in rising sectors tied to global demand trends such as artificial intelligence and manufacturing. The country's major tech stocks, Samsung Electronics and SK hynix, both saw a record-breaking rise on Friday, with Samsung shares closing at over 128,000 won and SK hynix shares closing at above 677,000 won. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
With the start of the new year, leaders from business, government, and politics laid out their vision for the year ahead at the country's largest annual economic gathering. Our Moon Hae-ryun has the details.
South Korea's top business leaders, government officials, and lawmakers gathered Friday to reaffirm their commitment to reviving the nation's economy amid mounting global and domestic uncertainty. Marking its 64th year as the country's largest annual economic gathering, the 2026 Economic Leaders New Year reception at the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry headquarters in Central Seoul brought together around 500 business leaders alongside the Prime Minister, political parties, and government ministers. This year's event was held under the slogan "Growing Businesses, a Rising Korea," as participants pledged closer cooperation between the private sector, government, and the National Assembly to drive economic recovery. Opening the event, KCCI Chairman Cha Tae-won, who also heads SK Group, warned that South Korea is approaching a critical crossroads.
2026 may be one of the most important years for Korea. We are nearing the final moment to decide whether we fall into negative growth or create a new era of growth.
Cha stressed the urgency of preparing for the artificial intelligence era, calling for expanded startup ecosystems, early infrastructure investment, and policies focused squarely on growth. Government leaders echoed that message. Prime Minister Kim Min-seok, who delivered a congratulatory address, emphasized the importance of public-private cooperation to navigate economic headwinds, including exchange rate volatility and global policy uncertainty. Business leaders also highlighted opportunities despite global challenges. Yoo Jin, chairman of the Federation of Korean Industries, pointed to the transformative impact of emerging technologies.
The AI revolution is fundamentally reshaping the global economic order. Korea must seize this moment to open a new era of K-industry through a major economic transformation.
Meanwhile, the head of the Korea International Trade Association noted that Korea achieved a historic milestone last year, surpassing $700 billion in exports for the first time. Participants concluded the event by pledging to move forward with strength and momentum in the new year, as they seek to steer the Korean economy towards renewed growth in an increasingly competitive global landscape. 문혜련, Arirang News.
South Korea's foreign ministry has said that the newly passed anti-fake news bill is not targeting any specific country or company. The announcement on Thursday was a response to U.S. State Department concerns that the revised Information and Communications Network Act would negatively impact U.S.-based online platform businesses and undermine freedom of expression. While saying the purpose of the bill is to address social harms arising from changes in the digital environment, the ministry said it will continue communicating with Washington. The revised law was approved at a cabinet meeting on December 30th and is set to take effect in July. Sales of traditional Korean culture goods hit a record high in 2025 on the back of the global popularity of the Netflix animated film KPop Demon Hunters. According to data released by the Korea Heritage Agency on Friday, the combined sales of its K-Heritage souvenir brand across its online and offline stores hit roughly 16.1 billion won, or approximately $11.13 million in 2025. While sales surpassed the 10 billion won mark for the third consecutive year, 2025's figure is a 35.5% increase from the year before. The agency, which develops products featuring heritage-inspired designs, said the film's success was a powerful catalyst driving the sales. Korean culture gained even more popularity last year, and 2026 is expected to keep the momentum going from music and food to film. For details, we turn to our culture correspondent, Park Kwon-woo. Welcome back, Kwon-woo.
Great to be here, Demi.
So, Kwon-woo, what can you tell us?
So as you just mentioned, Korean content, Korean culture has been dominant globally last year. And so we're also expecting the momentum to continue throughout this year. And especially last year, among all of the sectors that gained global attention, K-pop stood out in particular, boosted by the global mega hit film KPop Demon Hunters and its official soundtrack, including the hit song Golden. And that momentum, as I mentioned, will continue throughout the year. So K-pop fans, are you ready for this? Phenomenal boy band BTS has officially announced a March 20th comeback, revealed on the very first day of the new year.
여러분 새해 복 많이 받으시고요. 올해 뵙겠습니다.
The release will mark BTS's first album in nearly 4 years, following the completion of military service by all 7 members. Details on the album's concept or a potential world tour are expected later this year. Expectations are already running high, as their 2022 track Run BTS from their latest album topped the iTunes chart in more than 60 countries. But BTS isn't the only act making waves. Blackpink's dropping a first full-length album in 4 years, following last summer's single, Jump. Big Bang's also gearing up for a comeback, marking 20 years since debuting, while EXO is set to drop a new full-length album in mid-January. As these so-called second and third generation K-pop groups return, questions remain over whether they can recapture the spotlight they once held. One expert said fan power will be the key.
The fandom has become much stronger than before, so even when groups make a comeback after a long break, the role of their fans is clearly important. What matters most is whether artists show what their fans want to see as K-pop. More than other genres, is fan-centered. So, it's better not to be overly innovative or focus on agency profits.
He added that collaborations could help veteran groups reach a second peak, citing Twice participating in the K-pop Demon Hunters project as a successful example. He also noted that working with younger generation artists could help sustain and expand their musical careers. While some analysis show a global decline in K-pop album sales compared to 2024, the same expert says it's not a major concern.
Album sales aren't the only metric to look at. The decline was partly due to major groups postponing their comebacks. Globally, overall consumption is shrinking. It's not just happening in Korea. At the same time, concert sales have reached record highs, and I believe this positive trend will continue into next year.
Although groups like BTS and Blackpink still lead the global K-pop scene, he said it's time for that leadership to be passed on, with more active participation from rookies and artists from small to mid-sized agencies.
So excited for the new year, but it's not just K-pop groups that we are just excited about, right?
That's right. So K-movies as well. So Korean movies, a lot of them, sequels especially, are especially set to release this year. And that includes sequels to Ode to My Father and also The War of Flower. However, concerns are growing over a slowdown in commercial film productions. And commercial film production, as only about 20 commercial films are set to be released this year, down from around 40 last year. And also, a pop culture critic says this is where the government's role is crucial, and especially in supporting artists and creators.
Creators don't start out for money, but to share their work with audiences. The government should fully support emerging artists by helping connect their work with theaters and audiences. Then, the industry, including global platforms, might be able to take notice and eventually lead to greater opportunities.
And he also said film production companies need to diversify into other formats, such as dramas and variety shows, to adjust to a rapidly changing industry.
Okay, then now it's not just K-pop or movies. We are also expecting some exciting news from the sports field, right?
Yes, now about sports. So in early February, the Winter Olympics is set to be held in Milan and also Cortina d'Ampezzo.
Right.
This will be the first time the Winter Games are officially hosted across two cities, and around 3,500 athletes from more than 90 countries will compete in 16 sporting disciplines. And among them are South Korean athletes, including speed skater Lee Na-hyun, who spoke to Arirang News last year. And the national team is aiming for a top 10 finish after placing 14th in Beijing 4 years ago. And it's not just the Olympics. The FIFA World Cup will kick off on June 11th, hosted across 3 countries, the US, Canada, and Mexico. South Korea will compete in Group A alongside teams including Mexico and South Africa. And finally, the Summer Asian Games will be held this September in Japan. The last edition, originally scheduled to take place in 2022 in Hangzhou, China, was postponed to 2023. And South Korea landed on 3rd place that time. So South Korea is expected to be among the top contenders once again.
Again, a lot to look forward to in the new year. Do keep us posted, Kanu. Thanks for the coverage.
Will do. Thank you.
Cold wave warnings remain in effect across central areas, eastern parts of Jeollabuk-do, and northern parts of Gyeongsang-buk-do provinces. This morning, temperatures in Seoul plummeted to below -11 degrees Celsius, making for a fierce cold to start the day. This cold spell will continue through tomorrow morning, with temperatures staying below freezing. From tomorrow afternoon, temperatures will return to seasonal levels. Seoul will wake up to -8 degrees in the morning. However, temperatures will finally bounce back to average temperatures for this time of year from tomorrow afternoon. Most areas will have a freezing morning tomorrow, with Chuncheon at -14 degrees, Daejeon at -10 degrees. Highs will rise to 6 degrees in Gwangju and Daegu, 9 degrees in Jeju. Temperatures at around the normal levels will continue for the time being. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.